Welcome to Panda Head Studios. Now that you're here, hit that subscribe button and join the Panda Force. Today we're talking about Kill la Kill.
So specifically, we're talking about episode 1 of Kill la Kill. And for this episode, it introduces us to the main character, Ryoko Matoi, as she transfers into this new school. And she transfers in, we find out in the first episode, due to revenge reasons. We find out a lot of world building. The school has a very fascist regime, with the student council body president, Satsuki Kirin, or something like that, standing at the top, overlording everybody, in such a fashion that the school is like a giant tower and she stands at the very top of it. And we also find out that like the school uniforms have like superpowers called life fibers, and there's no star students, there's 1-star students, 2-star students, and then the ones we know of 3 stars, which are all like on their uniform somewhere. And then Ryoko gets her own version of like a uniform that has powers, and she wields like the scissor blade, or like half of a scissor blade, and has to have like this really bombastic fight. And everything about this episode is just kind of ridiculous and out there, and I in my opinion does a pretty good job of like setting some really quality framework for what's to come.
That is the most positive thing I have to say about this show is the world building. They do a fantastic job. It opens up with a teacher talking about Nazism, and then you see a Gestapo-esque force come in and they go after a student.
Well, not even just Nazism. The fact that Nazism became the dominant power in Germany in this version of the world's history.
Yeah, so you know there's like this ultra-conservative fascist thing. And that's taken over, somehow influencing the world. They don't break that down, but they don't need to. Yeah. And then when after they resolve, like they go after the student, the Gestapo-esque people go after the student. The student body president, she gives this speech, which is like straight up Orwellian doublespeak. It is phenomenal. It is perfect.
Absolutely.
The writing in this show, I will give high praises for. And that's something that really shocked me when I wanted to see like when this came out and was it a manga first. I just happened to stumble upon it. It's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Go figure.
I'm like, and luckily I didn't know that going into this, because that would probably really ruin the show, because I was not too fond of it, because I don't like the action of the show. Where that's like my biggest deterrent, or detractor from this, where like all the world building, the characters were really well suited for what the symbolism in regards to like the outfits, to where the fascist people are all uptight and perfect outfits, and then she has to wear scantily clad that is super revealing and wonderful for cons and cosplayers. And that symbolism right there is like my favorite piece of symbolism. There's a bunch of other stuff, but that right there is my favorite, to where like all the conservative people are all covered up, except for the boxer, but he's a boxer, so that's his uniform.
Yeah.
But her, she's a lot more open and has that everything. And
it's like a super small like mini skirt and like a top that like just covers her nipples.
Yeah.
Like it's just enough to not be hentai, but it should be hentai.
It's very ecchi. And that's actually like where it's almost like a bar that keeps changing places of, in my opinion, of how my enjoyment of it, to where like it's stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. But then the action, which is what's so praised in the show, to me, it's terrible. It's as bad as like Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball would do a lot of times, where it would just be, and then the characters, and then the person behind them is just defeated, and you don't actually see the action. It's like One Punch Man Season 1 compared to One Punch Man Season 2. The action in itself. Like, it's like, you would hope it would be One Punch Man Season 1, where it has that quality, that organicness,
and the fluidity.
The fluidity, that's the word I was looking for. This is just very stagnant images that really, to me, great. And it's like that's where it really hurts this show to me, is the fact that everything is a very still. It's like you're looking at a manga. When this was an anime first and a manga second, even though they were developed concurrently.
Yeah. See, for me though, like I actually kind of like the action, and actually because it is a lot of still frame style stuff, but mostly because like everything else about the show the characters, the clothing, and like me personally, like I'm someone that's already seen the whole season, so I know like different characters, what their outfits are gonna look like, and all this other stuff. Like with how bombastic this show is, gets even beyond this episode because it gets way more insane and kind of ridiculous.
Kind of. It's already pretty ridiculous with the outfit and the creepy scene.
No. The show,
the pit.
the episode one ridiculous is like here. The show goes here. I'm not kidding. It gets ridiculous.
This is my first time watching this show because I stopped watching Cartoon Network after they played Inuyasha for the seventh time.
You mean
it's where I missed Code Geass, and that was my biggest. That is one of my biggest mistakes I've ever made is not seeing Code Geass. I didn't even know it was on Cartoon Network. But
anyways, but the action in this is kind of why I like it, is because of how bombastic the show is, and the fact that like the action's fine, but I really enjoy the characters. I love like the double speak that Satsuki has, the revenge and rebellious nature of Ryoko, and all these like side things that all these other characters end up doing in the backgrounds. Like I'm fine with the animation for the action being a little bit stilted. And there are other fights I will say later on that are much more important than this first one. That the fluidity is a lot better. This one was just a very much like, here's an intro to how ridiculous these outfits are. Okay, we can put that to the side now because now you know.
And that's the characters in itself. Like there was like all the characters introduced were very interesting. Like with the president, the double speak, how she embodies the culture that she's representing.
Yeah.
Somehow Japanese high school presidents seem to have supreme power. Every time they're depicted in anime,
Anime.
And if you need a checklist of like the things in anime and just classic tropes,
specifically a high school anime.
Yes, every single thing is checked. Every single one of them. And then her, like, one of the leader of the, what is it, the student council, security, or what are they?
Disciplinary
committee. Those guys, that leader, he's really fun character when he's chasing the first year student. He's falling down the window, like, and then when he opens the door to run away, he's there, and then he lets the guy put on the uniform, and it's like, I have a better uniform.
Yep.
Which, great world building. Again, they show it, they show, they don't tell. I mean, they tell, but they show it as they tell.
But the way they tell it is very much like these uniforms exist, they give power. And then they show you that a weaker star uniform can't damage a higher one. They don't really explain that too much. He's just like, great, you have that, I have a better one.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's one line of dialogue. It's not like other shows where it's like, okay, let's explain every little thing about every piece of our world. Like the fascism, which is a big part of this show as a whole, and the fascist nature, is like 2 lines of dialogue at the very beginning talking about Nazism, and then the rest is just shown.
Yeah.
It's a simple, like, here's 2 lines to explain, like, how we got here, and then the result.
Yeah, that's the writing's very good, but that's where like at first with Ryoko,
The main character, Ryoko, yeah.
Ryoko. Her, like, at first I thought she was just a Mary Sue. She's gonna walk in and be like Vash Stampede, where she just nobody can get the better of them. Even when they do, they're not. And then they actually have her get just smashed.
Yeah.
But then she gets like a magic MacGuffin suit that is...
Yeah, she gets her own sailor uniform.
Yeah.
Which turns out to just be the thing that covers her nipples and like this super scantily short.
And for what the symbology of it, I'm like, I like that. But
yeah,
as someone who, if I want to watch anime with that kind of stuff in it, I'm gonna go back to the '90s when they did it right.
Yeah, like if you want to watch something that's strictly for female exploitation purposes,
Wicked
like
City.
90s anime did it better.
Yeah.
There's a couple newer ones that did it all right.
And High School of Dead is another one.
But that's a more recent one.
Yeah, that's why I was saying.
Yeah.
More than likely anyone seen it
Exactly.
that rather than like Wicked City or Demon City or all the other ones that have like every anime in the 90s had, for some reason, had a shower scene. And it would just be them bathing. Like, there wouldn't be something happening. Even the Street Fighter animated movie, she could take a shower and then gets out of it and gets in a fight. And it's like, you could have cut out that whole shower scene.
Yep.
And had it. But at least, like, I'm not, like, a fan of that stuff because, like, I'm not a 13-year-old anymore.
Yeah.
I have access to the internet. And everyone else has access to the internet. Like, I don't need this. But I'm an adult. Like, I'm a mature adult. I don't. I haven't. I just don't need that anymore, and I haven't needed it for quite a long time. And if I want that, I want it to go all the way. Like I want it to be totally exploitive, except for
Yeah.
redo of the healer. Oh my god.
Yeah, that one was
I'm sorry,
too
I'm
exploitative.
I'm having flashbacks of other animes, but ultimately though, like what it means is why I can forgive it,
Yeah.
and that's really all I have to say. Besides just if you're into like mildly exploitive, just right on the edge of ecchi with
Oh no,
fun
this is
dialogue.
hardcore ecchi.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
this gets hardcore ecchi, I will say.
And just has fun. But as a first time viewer, like check it out if you're into that kind of stuff and you want like action that really was sloppy. But apparently it's super popular, so chances are if you're into anime, you're gonna like this. Because I don't like the jokes mostly fall on me, but that's the same. But it mostly what really hurt it for me was the animation style. Because that's why I don't like FLCL. Is the animation style ruins it for me, and that even though I praise whoever did this is incredible at what they do. Like it looks good. But it's
just not for you.
Yeah.
Like that style isn't.
Yeah, I want it to be alive, and this doesn't look alive. Rather than it being alive, it's just still images that are moving.
Yeah. And as someone that's actually watched the season before in its entirety, I will say, like, if you want something that has, like, bombastic characters, an insane plot that, like, I will say it just kind of keeps ramping itself up and goes, hey, we're going to make you think it's this, and then all of a sudden they take a left turn out of nowhere. It actually is a fun show. And yes, the show does have a ton of ecchi. There's more than just Ryoko that ends up in scantily clad clothing. But if that's all you want, there are better shows out there for it. But if you want something with interesting characters that have a lot of callbacks to different things and a lot of doublespeak and people rising up against fascism and the various forms of like symbolism that are in this show as a whole, I would highly recommend this.
I will say it is better than the second part of Gurren Lagann.
Yeah.
Which is what this show, because I think the same creator of Gurren Lagann was involved in this.
I believe so, yes.
And so yeah. he perfected how he fucked up there. Like, if you like Gurren Lagann, the first half of Gurren Lagann, and especially if you like the second half, this is definitely a show for you.
Yeah.
But that's all for today. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed that. And in the comments down below, let us know what you think of Kill la Kill. And while you're there, don't forget to hit that like button and that bell icon for future orders.
If you're interested in gaming, check us out on Twitch for further updates. Follow us on Twitter. Kill the Kill.